I stood in my kitchen, clutching my coffee mug so tightly I thought it might shatter in my hand. Across from me sat my daughter, glowing in her white dress, her cheeks still flushed from the wedding 2 days ago. Her new husband, Brian, sat beside her, one arm casually draped over the back of her chair, his smile too wide, too perfect. And then he slid the envelope across the table. I didn't touch it. I didn't blink. "This is just something we thought would make things easier in the long run," Brian said, that same oily smile plastered to his face. "You know, legal stuff, asset alignment, future planning." My daughter beamed, nodding like a child, eager to please. "It's just a formality, Mum. He's brilliant with finances. We're setting up a trust for when we have kids. You understand, right?" My stomach twisted. The envelope was thick, yellow legal paper, notarized, bound with a clip. And the worst part? It had my name on it. "Just take a look when you can," Brian added, standing to clear his plate like the world hadn't just flipped upside down. "We're off to the honeymoon tomorrow, but this'll save time later." I didn't say a word. I didn't open the envelope until they left. When I did, my hands shook. There it was, in black ink, a financial agreement, drafted as if I had already agreed to allocate part of my assets into a new family trust. Conveniently managed by Brian. He had no idea what he was reaching for. No one did. Not even my daughter knew. I had inherited $7 million after my husband died, and I hadn't told a soul. Not her, not the lawyers, not even the bank, until I set up a private holding account under a name she'd never heard of. Thank God I said nothing, because now I knew exactly what he was after, and he had no idea I'd seen men like him before. Users, snakes in expensive suits. Before I dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps more people hear stories like this. Now, I wasn't just going to refuse the contract. I was going to test him, because 3 days from now I'd set a trap he'd never see coming. And the bait? A fake transfer. The moment he tried to withdraw what he thought was a new inheritance deposit, I'd be watching every move. But before I even got that plan into motion, there was a knock at my door. It was 9 a.m, and when I opened it, it wasn't Brian, it was his lawyer. And in his hand, another contract. This one was labelled Emergency Addendum, and it had my daughter's signature on it. The sight of that lawyer standing on my porch rattled me more than I wanted to admit. He looked young, maybe late 20s, dressed too sharp for his years, briefcase in one hand, the other already extended like this was just another polite transaction. "Mrs. Harmon?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "My name is Carter Wells. I'm here representing Brian Hastings and Olivia Hastings regarding an urgent financial arrangement." I didn't move from the doorway. "My daughter's name is Olivia Harmon," I said flatly. "She didn't change it." He blinked but recovered quickly. "Of course. My mistake. May I come in? This won't take long." I hesitated. Every instinct told me to slam the door. But curiosity, and something sharper, a need to know just how deep this rabbit hole went, made me step aside. He walked in like he owned the place, setting the briefcase on my dining table, the same one Olivia used to do her homework on. "This contract," he began, flipping open the case and withdrawing a set of glossy papers, "is what we're calling a precautionary measure. Brian and Olivia have decided to combine their financial futures. Naturally, this includes any immediate family holdings that could benefit the trust." I didn't sit down. I watched him from across the room, arms folded. He continued, unfazed. "Now, Olivia signed this document yesterday morning before they left for their honeymoon. Brian asked that you add your signature before end of week so it's all cleared before their return." I raised an eyebrow. "Before they get back?" "Yes, it's really just a formal acknowledgement of the family alignment." "Cut the fluff," I said. "Show me the section about the money." He hesitated, then turned the contract around and pointed. Section 7.2, Parental Estate Disclosures and Pre-Inheritance Trust Structures. In plain English, I was being asked to pre-declare any large assets or expected funds so they could be considered in the equitable trust distribution model. Basically, they wanted to know if I had anything hidden. I nearly laughed. They wanted my $7 million. I glanced at the signature on the dotted line above mine. It was Olivia's, her handwriting, rushed, like she hadn't even read it. The lawyer closed the folder gently. "This protects everyone involved, ma'am. Especially with today's economy, you know how important proper planning is." "Did Olivia actually read any of this?" I asked. He gave a tight smile. "They're young. They trust each other." Wrong answer. I stepped forward, hands flat on the table. "Tell Brian he'll have to wait. I don't sign things without my own legal team reviewing them." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "I understand. May I ask when they can expect your response?" "You'll have it," I said, "when I decide to give it." He nodded, gathered his things, and left, polite, but clearly annoyed. As soon as the door closed, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So it had started. They were circling. Brian knew, or at least suspected, that I had money. Olivia must have said something. Maybe not the full truth, maybe just a hint. Mum's been doing well, or she's been quiet about finances since Dad passed. It wouldn't take much to get a man like him to start sniffing. I didn't blame Olivia. She was in love. She'd always been trusting, too trusting. And after losing her father, she clung to Brian like he was her lifeboat. I watched it happen, helpless, knowing that no warning from me would reach her heart. But now it wasn't just about love. This was a move, a play, and I wasn't going to be anyone's pawn. I called my attorney, Greg, that afternoon. "Something's off," I told him. "They're pushing contracts too early. My daughter just got married and now there's paperwork about pre-inheritance alignments." He listened carefully. "You want me to look over the document?" "No," I said. "I want you to draft a decoy." Silence. Then, "A decoy?" "I want you to write a legal-looking document stating that I inherited only $240,000 from my late husband. Create a false bank transfer trail to a small account. Make it look legitimate but unimpressive. You want to make them think the inheritance is already spent?" "Exactly. And I want to make sure it's traceable just enough for someone like Brian to find. Nothing obvious. Just suspiciously accessible." Greg paused again. "And the real money?" "In a blind trust. Already locked down. They'll never see it." He exhaled slowly. "You always were a step ahead, Claire." "I had to be," I said. "You remember how my husband's brother tried to snake our estate after the funeral?" He laughed grimly. "Hard to forget." By the end of the week, Greg had sent me everything. I left the decoy files out on my desk, casually, carelessly, just in case someone had eyes in the house. Then I waited. 2 days passed. Nothing. Then 3. That's when I got the message. Not from Olivia. Not even from Brian. From the bank. A flagged attempt had been made to access one of my older joint accounts, one that had been dormant for years. It was small, less than $5,000 in it, barely worth touching. But the person trying to access it had used my maiden name. Only 2 people in the world knew I'd ever had money in that account under that name. One was my late husband, the other, Olivia. Which meant she'd said something, or Brian had guessed it. Either way, I now knew one thing with certainty. They were digging. That night, I sat alone in the quiet of my study, the fake inheritance summary in one hand, Brian's original contract in the other. I made my decision. No more waiting, no more testing. I was going to confront him. But not with anger. With something he'd never expect. Gratitude. The next morning I called Olivia. "Sweetheart," I said warmly. "When are you two back from the honeymoon?" She sounded surprised. "Tomorrow. Why? Everything okay?" "Of course," I said with a smile she couldn't see. Tell Brian I have the papers ready. I'd love to go over them with both of you at lunch. My treat. Oh, that's great, Mom. He'll be so happy. I knew you'd understand. I ended the call and stared out the window. They thought they were about to win, but what they didn't know was that they were about to sit down to a very different meal than they expected. And the menu? A full serving of truth. Because when they arrived, I'd already booked a notary, set a hidden camera, and invited Greg to play waiter. Let them bring their smiles and charm. I'd bring the $7 million in silence. And then the real contract would be revealed, the one that showed exactly who owned what and who had tried to lie about it. But before I could put all of it into motion, I got one more message, this time from Olivia. It was short, 2 lines. Mum, we need to talk first. Please don't be mad. Brian said you threatened him. My heart went still. Brian was turning the tables faster than I'd expected. Now Olivia was unsure. Now I was the problem. I was being painted as the threat, and I hadn't even made my move yet. I reread Olivia's message 3 times. Brian said you threatened him. We need to talk first. Please don't be mad. I sat there frozen, my phone resting in my hand, the screen glowing like it was daring me to reply. I didn't. Not yet. This wasn't just a misstep. This was a tactic. Brian was smart. He knew I was suspicious. He knew I'd sniffed out his game, so he did what manipulators do best. He preemptively painted me as the villain. By the time they walked into the trap I'd set, I wouldn't look like the smart mother who protected her inheritance. I'd look like the bitter, paranoid widow trying to control her daughter's new life. He'd cut my credibility before I even opened my mouth. I had to act carefully now. No confrontation, no anger, just silence. Strategy. I picked up the phone and dialed Greg again. They're twisting it, I said as soon as he picked up. I figured they would, he replied calmly. You're sure you still want to go through with lunch? I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Yes, but we're not going in as lawyers. He caught on. You want me there as backup, not as a threat? Exactly. No briefcase. Just sit and watch. Record everything. I'll bring a pen and a receipt book, he said with a hint of dry humour. The next day came quickly. I reserved a quiet table at the private garden cafe Olivia used to love when she was little. A place with rose bushes, koi ponds, and waiters who knew not to hover. Quiet, scenic, expensive. The kind of place that made everyone feel just a little more civilized than they really were. They arrived right on time. Brian was dressed in a powder blue suit like he was about to pitch $1 million idea on Shark Tank. Olivia wore a simple cream blouse, her hand looped nervously through his arm. I could see the hesitation in her eyes before she even sat down. Hi, Mum, she said gently. I stood, kissed her cheek and greeted Brian with a smile I'd perfected over 20 years of fake charity fundraisers. You look beautiful, Olivia. She smiled a little, the tension easing just slightly. Then she saw Greg. Oh, is this... My friend, Greg, I said quickly. He's just joining for lunch. Works in insurance, actually. Greg nodded politely. Pleasure to meet you both. You picked a good day. The chef's making duck confit. Brian seemed unfazed. He shook Greg's hand and then leaned back like he was in control again. We ordered salad for Olivia, steak for Brian, soup for me. We made small talk until the food came. Travel, the wedding, the weather. Brian recounted some half-funny story about how their luggage got lost, and a concierge offered them his personal yacht for the inconvenience. I nodded, smiled, waited. Finally, Brian leaned forward, fork down, expression turning sincere. Claire, I want to clear the air. I never meant to pressure you. I just thought we could build something smart together, as a family. When Olivia told me about your husband's passing and that you'd been managing the estate alone, I felt protective. I raised an eyebrow. Protective of me? Of Olivia, of her future, and by extension, Your well-being too. I nodded slowly. That's very kind of you. Olivia looked between us, unsure. Brian reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the same folder I'd seen before. I brought the paperwork again just in case you had time to think. He placed it gently on the table like it was a gift. I took it and flipped through it slowly. Then, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a document of my own. Not the real one. The decoy Greg prepared. I placed it on top of his, folded neatly. This is my inheritance disclosure, I said. $240,000, remaining after debt clearances and legal fees. It's all I have left. Brian's eyes flicked to the document. He didn't touch it. But I saw the calculation begin in his head. That amount was too small to build a trust around. Too small to be worth manipulating me for. Too small to justify the risk he'd already taken by involving a lawyer and forging Olivia's blind signature on that addendum. He smiled politely, but I saw the storm gathering. Olivia leaned forward. Wait, what? That's all that's left? I looked her in the eye. Your father had more debt than I told you. I didn't want to burden you after the funeral. Her face fell. But you seemed okay. I managed, I said softly. I sold the lake house, cut back. I just didn't want you to worry. She swallowed hard. Oh. Brian reached for his drink. His smile was there, but thinner now, strained. I see, he said simply. Greg watched silently, his hand resting on his pen. The tension at the table was growing like a storm cloud. I added the final detail. After this lunch, I said gently, I'll be closing that account and rolling it into a modest annuity for retirement. Nothing fancy, but it'll last me. Brian blinked. Then he stood. I need the restroom, he said with a short laugh. Too much espresso this morning. He walked off, folder still on the table. As soon as he was out of earshot, Olivia leaned in. Mum, did you really threaten him? I looked her dead in the eye. No, but I did say I wouldn't sign anything without legal review, and that must have scared him. She looked away. He said you called him a liar. I said nothing, because I had, silently, in my mind. She wasn't ready to hear the full truth. Not yet. When Brian returned, he was calm again. Too calm. He sat down, folded the folder and slipped it back into his pocket. You know what? He said. You're right, Claire. I rushed things. We're a new family. We should build trust the old-fashioned way. I smiled, tight-lipped. That sounds nice. Lunch ended with polite smiles and stilted hugs, but as I watched them walk away, something nagged at me. Brian wasn't the type to walk away empty-handed, and I knew I hadn't won yet. 2 nights later it happened. I woke up to a call from my banker. There was a withdrawal request for $240,000, she said. Initiated through your old digital profile. Flagged it as suspicious because the device was unfamiliar. I froze. What device? Someone using Olivia's tablet, logged in from the hotel they stayed in after the wedding. I didn't need to guess who it was. He had seen the fake inheritance paper. He believed it. And now he had tried to take all of it. The only problem? That account was empty. It was a dummy. But what scared me more was that he had access to Olivia's devices, which meant she'd given him passwords, full access, and possibly, unknowingly, opened the doors to much more. I hung up and called Olivia. She didn't answer. I tried again. No answer. Then a text. Hey, Mum, we're resting. Can we talk tomorrow? Resting. Right. I didn't sleep that night. Because I wasn't just dealing with a gold digger, I was dealing with a thief. And the worst part, he was sleeping beside my daughter. I barely slept. The house felt colder than usual, though the thermostat read the same. I walked from room to room like a ghost, locking windows, checking drawers, peeking out through curtains as if Brian might suddenly appear on the porch with another fake smile and another friendly contract. But he wouldn't come in the open anymore. No, he was already inside our lives, inside Olivia's heart. And the worst part, she had no idea. By 6 a.m., I was sitting in my armchair, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the blank TV screen. I hadn't turned it on all night. The silence helped me think. Plot. When the sun finally broke over the treetops, I stood, made coffee, and called Greg. He answered on the first ring. He tried to withdraw the fake money, I said quietly. From Olivia's tablet. Greg didn't sound surprised. He's bolder than I thought. Or dumber. Or both. I rubbed my forehead. I need a digital trail. Something that shows it wasn't me logging in. Can you help? Already on it, he said. We'll get the IP address, the device signature, even the timestamp. But Claire, we might be running out of time. I know. I ended the call and stared down into my coffee. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about control, and about saving my daughter from a man who'd use her, drain her, then walk away with whatever he could carry. Later that morning, I sent Olivia a message. Come to the house, alone. No Brian, just us. She replied quickly. Why? What's going on? Just come. I made that lemon cake you love. She agreed. By 2 p.m, I heard her car pull into the driveway. I peeked through the blinds. She was alone. Good. She walked in slowly, hesitantly. Her eyes scanned the room like she expected cameras or confrontation. I greeted her with a hug. She didn't return it right away. We sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where I used to braid her hair before school. I need to talk to you, I said, sliding her a slice of cake. Really talk. She looked down at it. Okay. I didn't hold back. I know Brian tried to access an account that wasn't his. He used your tablet. He triggered a fraud alert. Her face went pale. What? No, he wouldn't. He did. He guessed there was money. I left a fake document to see what he'd do. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. You set him up. I leaned forward. I protected you. I didn't want to believe it either, but I had to know who he really is. She shook her head, standing suddenly. This is insane. You're spying on us, manipulating me. I'm trying to stop you from being robbed blind. He loves me. I stood too. Then ask him why he went into your tablet. Ask him what he was trying to take. He wouldn't. He said you were paranoid, that you hated him. Because I saw him for what he is. She grabbed her purse, tears falling now. I can't do this, she said. I need space. Olivia, please. But she was already out the door. She drove off fast. I stood there, heartbreaking, watching the dust settle on the gravel road. I had just pushed her away. And Brian? He'd win if I lost her. I went back inside and sat down, chest tight. I hadn't cried in years, but now the tears came fast. Greg called just then. I got the data, he said. Confirmed. It was Brian. I can put it in a report. Good, I whispered. It won't matter if Olivia hates me. She won't. She left. He was silent for a moment. Then, Claire, what if we go further? I sniffled. Further how? We expose him, publicly. You still have those wedding video clips, right? Reception speeches? Yes. Let me review them. Maybe he slipped. Maybe he bragged. Greg, no, listen. He's arrogant. He talks too much. If he hinted about money in front of anyone, we can make it count. I nodded. Okay, I'll send everything. That night, I watched the footage again, not just from the professional videographer, but from guests' Instagram stories, live streams, even shaky phone footage Olivia had sent me. And then, I found it. Brian, standing with a drink in hand, surrounded by friends. The camera is a bit far off, but the audio is clear enough. He's laughing, smug, confident. One of his friends asks, "So what's next, man? You married rich?" He replies, loud and proud, "Not yet, but give me a month. You'll see." The friends laugh. He lifts his drink like he just sealed a deal. I paused the video, heart pounding. There it was. Arrogance caught on camera. I sent it to Greg. He replied instantly. Got it. This is gold. Let me prep something. Next morning I had a new plan. I called Olivia again. No answer. I tried again later. Still nothing. Then I got a message. Brian and I need time. Please respect our space. That was it. No mum. No warmth. Just space. But I didn't have time to wait anymore. So I went to her. I drove to their apartment, a slick condo complex with security gates and rooftop views. When I buzzed her unit, Brian answered. Claire, he said flatly, I need to speak with Olivia. She's sleeping. It's 10 a.m. She's tired. I'll wait. A pause. Then, she doesn't want to see you. I didn't move. You can't keep her from me. I'm not, he said. She just doesn't want drama. I exhaled through my nose. Fine. Then I turned and walked away. But not before slipping the USB stick I brought, containing the wedding video clip, into their mailbox. Let him try to explain that. I didn't hear from Olivia for 2 days. Then finally, she showed up at my house, alone. Eyes swollen from crying, hands shaking. She walked inside without a word and sat down. I watched the video, she whispered. I sat beside her. She didn't look at me. I asked him about it, she said. He said it was just a joke, that guys say dumb stuff. I stayed quiet. But I checked his browser history, she said, voice breaking. He looked up how to access trust funds, how to bypass account authentication. I reached for her hand. She let me hold it. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. And I finally let myself cry too, but just as we held each other. Her phone buzzed on the table. She wiped her eyes, looked at it, then stared at me. It's Brian, she said. Her voice went flat. He says he's lawyered up. I stiffened. What? He says if I try to leave, he'll sue for fraud, that he has a prenup, that he'll expose me for using his money for the wedding. But you didn't, I said. She shook her head. No, but my name's on everything. I leaned back in my chair. So this was his next move. If he couldn't steal from me, he'd bleed Olivia dry. He was going to destroy her to get even, and if we didn't act fast, he might succeed. I stood in front of my daughter, my heart breaking for the second time in 2 weeks. She was pale, trembling, completely stripped of the joy she'd had just days earlier. The honeymoon smile was gone. The sparkle in her eyes had faded. And the worst part was knowing she hadn't just lost a marriage, she was starting to lose faith in herself. Brian had done what men like him always do, charmed his way in, tried to control everything. And now that the mask was off, he was threatening to burn her life to the ground, not on my watch. I took Olivia's phone from the table and scrolled through the message Brian had sent. Don't even think about pulling anything. You signed the agreement. I'll take this to court and I'll win. Below that, screenshots of documents she didn't even remember signing, bank transfers in both their names, a receipt for a wedding ring, purchased using Olivia's joint account with him. He was preparing for this the whole time, I whispered. Olivia nodded, crying quietly. I feel so stupid, she said. You're not stupid, I told her. You were in love. He just wasn't. I called Greg. He picked up on the first ring. She's here. He's threatening legal action. Good, Greg said. Then it's time we play our card. He had been waiting for this moment. Greg had already drawn up a counter-offensive. A full report with digital forensics, device fingerprints, IP logs, and the video of Brian bragging about his intentions, all packaged in a way that would crush him if this ever went to court. You want me to send this to his lawyer? Greg asked. No, I said. Not yet. Then what? I want to meet him, face to face with Olivia. Greg paused. Claire, I need him to see what we know. I need him to look me in the eyes and realize the game is over. He agreed. We set the meeting for the following afternoon. I chose a public place, a lawyer's office downtown with glass walls and cameras. Greg would be there, quiet in the corner. Olivia too. I told her she didn't have to come, but she insisted. I need to see his face when he realizes I'm done. We arrived early. Brian showed up 10 minutes late, smug as ever. He was wearing a black turtleneck and sunglasses, like he thought he was some kind of celebrity. He smiled when he saw us. But it didn't last. Greg handed him a folder. This is a courtesy copy of our findings. Brian flipped through the first few pages. And I saw it. The shift. His face twitched. His lips parted slightly. His posture stiffened. He knew he was caught. There's no crime here, he said quickly. You can't prove anything. You're right, Greg said. There's no crime, yet. But what we have is enough to open several investigations: identity misuse, financial manipulation, fraudulent coercion of contracts. Brian scoffed. Your voice is on video, I said quietly. You said, and I quote, "Give me a month, you'll see," and you tried to move funds from my daughter's account without her permission. He looked at Olivia, his eyes narrowing. You told them. She didn't flinch. No, she said. You did. He slammed the folder shut. What do you want? He snapped. I leaned forward. You're going to disappear. He raised an eyebrow. You're going to walk away, I continued. Sign an annulment, release Olivia from any shared accounts, properties and legal claims. No court, no battle. He laughed bitterly. Or what? Greg pulled out a second folder. Or this goes public, and the local paper gets a story about a man who married for money and got caught. We already have a reporter waiting, I added. One email, and it's done. Brian looked at all three of us. He was cornered, and he knew it. You think you can just push me out? He hissed. No, I said. You pushed yourself out. We're just making it official. He stared at Olivia like he still expected her to crack. She didn't. She slid a pen across the table. He picked it up, slowly, and signed. Every last page. When it was done, he stood, fixed his sunglasses, and walked out without another word. Just like that. Gone. Olivia broke down the moment the door clicked shut. I wrapped my arms around her, rocking gently like I used to when she was small. It's over, I whispered. You're safe now. But she pulled back, tears still in her eyes. No, Mom, it's not over until I fix what I broke with you. I blinked. You didn't break anything. Yes, I did. I didn't listen. I doubted you. I let him twist the truth. I smiled gently. You believed in love. That's not a crime. That's being human. We left the office together. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. That evening we made dinner at home. Nothing fancy, just pasta and garlic bread, but it felt warm again, peaceful. Over the table, she asked me one last question. Is it true, she said, about the money? I paused, then nodded. Yes, I did inherit 7 million. Her eyes widened slightly. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to protect you. From him, from greed, from what money does to people. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. From now on, she said, no more secrets. I nodded, and we ate, finally. Not as a broken family, not as a mother trying to save her daughter, but as two women who had made it through the storm, together.